Hello everyone, this is part 3 of What If Naruto Awakened New Skills, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Well Hashi, I think I better explain what's happening whilst Hinata collects what she needs, said Naruto kneeling in front of the Hyuga head. The Hokage has asked that I accompany the Ero Sennin Jiraiya to find Lady Tsunade and ask her to be the next Hokage, and I have requested that Hinata accompany us, he explained. Very well then, I assume that he intends to teach you something along the way. Will Hinata also be allowed to learn it if she can? Asked Hashi, concerned that Hinata would be going along for no reason other than to keep Naruto company and would miss out on an opportunity to train, although when he thought about it, Naruto would train on his own if need be and likely would have Hinata train with him, which would help her gain more skill with the new Byakugan. He still didn't know what it was called. He made a mental note to ask Naruto at a later time. Even if he won't train her himself, I'll train with her and do my best to teach her any techniques he teaches me, said Naruto, hoping that it would be enough. How would you like Hinata to be able to summon foxes? I'm sure that damn pervert would try and make her sign the contract for toads if she doesn't, said the voice. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, but that's only if she wants to sign it, so how would I go about it? Asked Naruto. Don't worry about it now, I'll tell you when we get to your flat, said the voice. Alright then, please take care of her, Naruto, said Hashi. Of course sir, replied Naruto, bowing. Just then Hinata came into the room. I'm ready to go, Naruto. Goodbye father, she said. Have a safe trip, replied Hashi. Then the two genin bowed and left. Welcome to my home, Hinata, said Naruto as he opened the door. His apartment was spotless. Of course that was because after Hinata had gone in to get her things on his way to speak to Hashi, Naruto had created a shadow clone and sent it to clean his apartment. When it arrived, it created another 4 shadow clones and they quickly got to work making sure that it was clean and tidy. He didn't want Hinata to see his home in its usual state. It's nice, Naruto, said Hinata. Naruto, sighing mentally that his clones had done a good enough job and she liked it, he resolved to make sure that it wouldn't get into that state again. I'm glad you like it, Hinata, replied Naruto, moving towards his bedroom to pack his things. Naruto, said Hinata. Naruto, thinking that she wanted somewhere to sit and wait for him, and before she continued. If you go through the second door, there's a sofa you can sit on, he said. Actually, Naruto, said Hinata, blushing lightly and tapping her extended index fingers together. Naruto looked out of his room. What is it, Hinata? He asked. Hinata was struggling but decided that since he was the one that had basically asked her on their first date, she would take a chance. Are we going out now? She asked, turning a shade of red previously only seen on tomatoes. If that's what you want, Hinata, said Naruto, turning back into his room to continue collecting his things. Before hearing a loud thud from his hallway, he looked out again to see that Hinata had fainted again, so he walked into the hallway, picked her up bridal style and then carried her back into his room, gently laying her his bed before continuing to collect his things. They still had around an hour, so he was in no rush to wake her before he was ready to go. 5 minutes later, Hinata woke up, not quite sure where she was. Then she remembered asking Naruto if they were going out, and then on remembering his reply, she once again blushed the red of a tomato, but didn't faint. She decided it best to find out where she was, since she was quite sure she wasn't still in the hall. Upon realizing that she was laying on a bed and promptly putting 2 and 2 together and realizing it was in fact Naruto's bed, she promptly fainted again. So how do I let Hinata sign the summoning contract for foxes? Asked Naruto. Simple, write the kanji for white fox on your left arm. I'm going to give her a slightly different one to yours. You can summon any kind of fox, even the black and the water-based blue foxes to your aid, but Hinata is going to be able to summon white and blue foxes. They aren't as powerful as the red or black in outright strength, but they are faster and quicker to adapt to match what the summoner needs them for, as well as being somewhat more tactful than cunning, replied the voice. Naruto did as he was told and wrote the kanji for white fox on his left arm. Now what? He asked. Normally to create a summoning contract you would need a drop of bee from the kind of animal for the contract, but since I am god of the foxes and my bee is mixed within your veins, by merely smearing your own bee on the kanji you can summon any kind of contract that I choose to give you. In this case it will be for both the white and blue foxes, said the voice. Naruto then bit his thumb and smeared his bee across the kanji he had put on his arm. A puff of white smoke appeared, and when it cleared, the kanji on his arm was gone, and on the floor under his arm was a scroll. It was bigger than an average scroll, but not as big as the toad summoning scroll Jiraiya carried. Around 10 minutes later, Naruto had finished packing and was ready to go. All that was left was to wake Hinata. Trying to think of the best way to wake her up, he didn't think that she'd be happy being or soaked, and he no longer thought that shaking her was a very good idea either. Then the strangest idea, at least to him, came to him. He decided to K Hinata, and so he kneeled down next to the bed, leant over and K Hinata on the lips, holding it. Hinata awoke feeling someone K her. She didn't open her eyes immediately. She hoped it wasn't a dream. Then her mind ran through last few events and she opened her eyes wide in shock. It was then she realized that it was in fact Naruto K her. She felt her face once again glow red, but to her surprise she didn't faint. She slowly closed her eyes again and returned the K. After realizing that Hinata was awake and returning the K, Naruto held the K a little longer and then he pulled away, looking down on Hinata, the blush now only lightly gracing her cheeks. Thank you, Naruto, that was the best wake-up I've ever had, said Hinata, her eyes still closed. You're welcome. Listen, how would you like to be able to summon creatures? Said Naruto, helping Hinata to sit up on the bed with her legs hanging of the side. What kind of creatures, Naruto? Asked Hinata. White and blue foxes, said Naruto. Oh okay, how? Asked Hinata. Just sign your name in B on this scroll and then put B on your hand and do these hand seals. Your hand on the floor and say summoning jutsu, said Naruto, performing the jutsu slowly so that Hinata could see it. Then there was a puff of white smoke and a white fox with a black tips on its tail and ears around the same size as a Kamaru appeared. Hey, I'm Bayako, said the fox. Its voice was light and quite high. It's a CC cute, said Hinata softly. I like you, said Bayako to Hinata. And then Naruto, let me sign the contract, said Hinata. Naruto then lifted up the contract and unrolled it on the bed. Hinata bit her thumb and signed her name where Naruto pointed to on the contract. Okay, now you try summoning Bayako, said Naruto as the fox disappeared. Hinata then smeared B on her palm as Naruto had done and went through the seals, then put her hand on the bed and a puff of smoke appeared again. I'm Barake, said the small fox in a sing-song manner. Wow, I did it, Naruto, said Hinata happily. Well done, Hinata, said Naruto, hugging her. This caused her to blush crimson, but to her surprise she didn't faint. Come on, I need to collect a few supplies before we need to go and meet Ero Sennin, said Naruto as he stood up and stretched out his hand to help Hinata up off the bed. Hinata accepted Naruto's waiting hand, getting up off the bed, returned Bayako to the summoning plane, and walking with Naruto to the front door, they picked up the bags, put their sandals on and walked out the front door. 1 hour later at the main gate. Where is he? He's almost as bad as Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto, standing next to Hinata holding her hand. I'm sure there's a good reason why he's late, Naruto, said Hinata quietly. I doubt it, probably peeping on girls, said Naruto. He then activated his Fuengan and used the Byakugan part to look for the Toad Sage. As he was looking around, something caught his attention, but he couldn't quite see it even with the Byakugan. It had looked like someone who was invisible and suppressing their chakra. He decided to double check, so he activated his infrared vision and checked the same place, and sure as day he saw the outline of Jiraiya radiating heat and walking towards them. A minute or so later he watched as Jiraiya walked past them. What are you trying to do, Ero Sennin, said Naruto, sounding anything but amused. Jiraiya was stunned. He knew even the Hyuga's Byakugan could only barely see him with his invisibility jutsu on, so Hinata shouldn't have been able to see him. Then he remembered that Naruto now had the Fuengan and realized that was why he hadn't been able to sneak past. He could hide his chakra but not his heat. Should have known better than to try and sneak by a Fuengan user, said Jiraiya, standing with one hand scratching the back of his head. Yeah, you should have, said Naruto. Sorry to keep you waiting. Now before we go, have either of you ever trained with weights before? Asked Jiraiya. No, Ero Sennin, said Naruto, a little confused. Hinata just shook her head. Alright then, well, starting now you will each carry 5 kgs on each limb to begin with, and I'll increase to weights as and when I see fit. You will also wear these vests. They absorb chakra so you can't use it to help you carry to weights. Hinata, you will wear 1 and Naruto will wear 3, said Jiraiya, pulling 4 black vests and 8 weight bands out of his bag. How come I have to wear more vests? Naruto. Because you have a higher chakra capacity than anyone else your age, so this balances it out, said Jiraiya. Naruto and Hinata then took the jackets off and put the vests on, and then the wrist weights, then they put the ankle weights on. Okay, Ero Sennin, we're done, now let's get going, said Naruto impatiently, and with that they set off along the road. Half an hour later. Sir Ero Sennin, when are you going to teach us some new jutsus? Asked Naruto. We're going to start with some basic techniques, starting with the one I was using when I arrived at the main gate. It's an invisibility jutsu that's excellent for sneaking around and gathering information, said Jiraiya. Why would we want to learn that? Asked Naruto, unsure about the true motives of the technique's creation. He did understand how it could be useful, just not to him. Because Naruto, you need to learn the other elements of being a ninja. Yes, so far your strategy of hit it till it breaks has worked so far, but that will not always be the case. It also makes it easy to escape, to recover, as well as to sneak up on enemy shinobi even in the middle of battle. If timed correctly with some other event, you can make them think that you've put them in a genjutsu even though you haven't, Jiraiya informed them. So how do we do it, Ero Sennin? Asked Naruto, activating the Sharingan part of the Fuengan. Jiraiya then performed 3 hand seals in quick succession and disappeared from view. With the Sharingan abilities active, Naruto could easily replicate the technique and did so to prove it. Not bad, Naruto, but Hinata, activate your Byakugan, said Jiraiya. Okay, said Hinata, activating her Kekkei Genkai. Now Hinata, who can you see? Asked Jiraiya, smiling. I can see Naruto clearly, said Hinata. And what about me? Asked Jiraiya. I can see you, but only just Ero Sennin, said Hinata softly. Argh, you told her to call me that, didn't you, Naruto? Screamed Jiraiya. Of course, Ero Sennin, it is the truth after all, Naruto said, his trademark smile on his face. Anyway, as Hinata said, you can do the jutsu itself. But you haven't mastered the rest of the jutsu. In order to get the full potential from this jutsu, you need to be able to suppress your chakra whilst maintaining the jutsu. Otherwise, even though you are invisible, it is still possible for people like Hinata and Sasuke to see you, and others that can sense chakra with more ease can find your position. As it happens, I have a task for both of you to help with this, said Jiraiya, deactivating the jutsu. He then pulled out 2 water balloons. What are they for? Asked Naruto, deactivating the jutsu himself and looking a little lost. This is the first stage in learning a technique left for us by the 4th Hokage. You need to spin your chakra to pop the balloon, said Jiraiya, handing them each a water balloon. Okay, well, that sounds simple enough, replied Naruto, brimming with confidence as usual. Then it shouldn't take too long then. Now come on, you can practice whilst we walk, said Jiraiya, starting to walk off down the road. Naruto and Hinata followed soon after, each starting to try and burst the water balloon by spinning the water with their chakra. It was slightly easier for them as they could both see the chakra moving around in the balloon, but they still found it difficult to get the balloon to burst. Damn it, I can't get it to burst. Hey Ero Sennin, why don't you show us how to do it? Asked Naruto. What, with your abilities? No way, it would be way too easy for you to see how to do it and just copy it. You would be able to do it right, said Jiraiya, looking back over his shoulder. What do you mean? Of course we do it right, and how are we supposed to be able to get anywhere near it, if we don't know what it is we're trying to do? Whined Naruto. No, you wouldn't, because your chakra control isn't good enough. This will teach you as well as help you with your other jutsu. In fact, I have an idea. Both of you lift up your tops and show me your stomachs, said Jiraiya. Both genin looked a little confused but complied, Hinata blushing heavily. Jiraiya then created the 5-pointed seal that he had previously removed from Naruto in both hands and used it on them. What did you do to us, Ero Sennin? Asked Naruto. I put a seal on you that will make it difficult to use chakra. It's the same one I took of you when I taught you to walk on water, replied the Sannin. Enter flashback. Naruto got up from the bushes he had been thrown into and walked back over to the old man. What did you do that for? He asked. Try walking on water now, replied the old man. Naruto was skeptical but complied. Hey, I can do it, he shouted, jumping up and down on the water. He walked back to the bank after calming down. Hey Ero-sennin, what did you do? Asked Naruto. How many times do I have to tell you not to call me that? My name is Jiraiya, shouted the man. Anyway, around the seal that regulated the demon's chakra going into your body, I noticed another seal designed to disrupt it, making it hard for you to control its chakra and your own. My guess is it was put there by a man called Orochimaru, replied Jiraiya. Oh, so that's what he did. Hey, how do you know Orochimaru? Said Naruto. He's a Sannin like me. There are only 3 Sannin. We were all teammates at one time, trained by the Hokage, so of course I'm going to know him, replied the Sannin. Exit flashback. WHAT. Why have you put that on us? Screamed Naruto. Because if you master this technique whilst you are restrained by it, when you're done your chakra control will be excellent, replied Jiraiya. Makes sense I guess, but I still don't like it, Naruto. Now come on and keep practicing. If you can make it to the second stage in 2 days I'll take it off, said Jiraiya. He wasn't sure whether he actually would or wouldn't yet, but at least if Naruto had a target to work at he would manage with more easy. Alright, I'll be done by this time tomorrow, said Naruto, brimming with confidence. Hinata blushed, admiring his confidence and deciding that she would try and do it at least as quickly if not quicker, in hopes that he would recognize her, having not quite allowed herself to believe that he actually cared for her yet. That evening, they had arrived at the destination earlier on that night. Naruto had managed to persuade Jiraiya, bribed of course, and Hinata that it would be fine if they shared a room, but had also agreed that it should be a twin, not a double. That night he and Hinata had continued to practice the jutsu whilst Jiraiya had gone out to find information on Tsunade and conduct some research. They were getting closer to the point they had really started at before Jiraiya put the seals on them. Hey kid, said the voice. What is it? Asked Naruto. Just thought you'd want to know that if we get into trouble I'll be able to negate the effects of the seal, but only for about 20 minutes, so we'd have to finish it up quickly, said the voice. Glad to hear it. I have to protect Hinata. Whilst you're here, any guesses as to what the technique is or how to do it? Asked Naruto. Yes, on both counts, but I believe that Ero-sennin was correct in his decision. This will be a far better way. As far as I know, it's similar to the method the fourth first used to create it in the first place. And before you ask, yes, I do know what it looks like and how it's done. When you're a demon you kinda learn those things when you see an attack being used on you, replied the voice. Okay, well thanks anyway, said Naruto. The neat morning, Konoha. 2 figures wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them and straw hats, one with something wrapped in bandages on his back, walked into Konoha, apparently using a henge and false papers to gain access. As they walked by the river flowing through Konoha, their path was blocked by 2 Jonin, Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai Yuhi. Well, now who do we have here? Asked Asuma. Looks like a couple of troublemakers. What's your business back in Konoha, Itachi Uchiha? Said Kurenai. That is not your concern, replied Itachi, dispelling his henge. Then the second person walked forward. No, we are not here for a confrontation, Kisame, he said to his companion. Well now, Kisame Hoshigaki, one of the 7 shinobi swordsmen of the mist, listed in the bingo book for an attempted treason, said Asuma. That is also not your concern. If you leave us be we shall cause no trouble. I am here purely for reminisce sake, stated Itachi. Somehow I find that very hard to believe, said Asuma as he and Kurenai dropped into stances ready for battle. I can see we're going to have to do this the hard way, said Itachi. Just then 2 squads of Anbu and Kakashi appeared around them. Itachi Uchiha, you and your companion are to come with us, and powerful as you may be I doubt that you could manage to take us all down or flee from us all, said Kakashi. Very well then, said Itachi, and with that they left. Half an hour later, Kurenai and Asuma are sitting in Kakashi's apartment whilst Kakashi lies unconscious in the bed. Then the door opens and Sasuke walks in. What happened to him? He's supposed to be training me, demanded Sasuke. Just then a Chunin ran in. I heard that Itachi Uchiha came back and he's after Naruto Uzumaki, is that right? He asked quickly before checking who was in the room. Sasuke's eyes shot wide open whilst Asuma and Kurenai quickly looked at the Chunin, narrowing their own. You heard right, said Asuma, knowing that Sasuke would know if he was lying with the Sharingan even if the Chunin didn't. Half a second later Sasuke was out the door and heading for the town that he knew Naruto, Hinata and Jiraiya were going to stop in first. Great, now go and tell Guy what just happened here. He's going to need to go after Sasuke, said Asuma, and with that the Chunin immediately turned and ran out the door in search of Guy. 2 hours later, Hinata and Naruto are in the hotel practicing the technique. Their progress has been slow but steady. A sudden knock on the door disturbs them from their practice. You keep practicing, Hinata, I'll answer the door, said Naruto, getting up. Hinata then resumed her practice. Another knock on the door. All right, I'm coming, said Naruto. Damn Ero Sennin, he muttered under his breath. He got to the door and opened it, but to his surprise it was not Jiraiya standing in front of him but two men. One that looked like he could be an older version of Sasuke and another who looked very strange to Naruto, with blue skin, no apparent nose and two V's under each eye. His eyes were a little like Hinata's had been before he changed them, but instead of being a sort of cream with no pupils they were white with very small pupils, and his teeth were showing even though his mouth was closed, strange large triangular teeth. Naruto Uzumaki, come with us, said the one that looked like Sasuke. And why should I do that? Replied Naruto. Yep, he's just as I thought, stubborn and mouthy, thought Itachi, but Itachi was prevented from any more thoughts by a familiar voice shouting at him. Itachi, I'm here to kill you, I've lived my life just as you said, filled with hate, anger and rage at you, shouted Sasuke, charging up his Chidori. He then ran at Itachi. Foolish, thought Itachi as Sasuke reached him, and he easily deflected the attack, sending it through the wall and throwing Sasuke away. Naruto then moved to attack Itachi. Stay out of this, it's their fight, said the other guy, putting something resembling a sword wrapped in bandages in Naruto's way. Stay out of this, Naruto, I'll kill him myself, shouted Sasuke, charging at Itachi again, this time wielding a kunai. This time Itachi grabbed his arm and pulled it across him. He then kneed Sasuke in the gut, let go of him, and before he could even start to fall, roundhoused him into the wall. Jiraiya then broke through the wall on the other side of the guy with the sword. It seems I got here just in time. I got a message from Konoha that you two had come after Naruto and Sasuke was chasing after Itachi, said the Sannin. Well, let's leave the brothers to it, wouldn't want to disrupt their reunion now, would we, said the other guy. I guess not, Kisame Hoshigaki, said Jiraiya, although his face and body language showed that given half a chance he'd be through and helping the genin. Itachi walked up to Sasuke, who was slowly standing up after hitting the wall and falling to the floor. He then grabbed his shirt collar and lifted him up, switching his eyes to Mangekyo Sharingan. He got Tsukuyomi ready so that as soon as Sasuke opened his eyes he would be caught in the genjutsu. Sasuke opened his eyes. Itachi was shocked but had no time to stop the technique when he realized that Sasuke was also using the Mangekyo Sharingan, but his was different. They appeared in the warped world of Tsukuyomi, but instead of seeing the Sasuke he had originally left in Konoha as he was supposed to, he instead saw the Sasuke he had been fighting against. Well, it would seem you also have the Mangekyo Sharingan, but what I'd like to know is how did you get it? Inquired Itachi. Sasuke laughed. Ever wondered where our Sharingan came from? You know as well as I do it wasn't written in the scrolls, it's a branch of the Fuengan Kekkei Genkai. Ever heard of it? Said Sasuke. No, I can't say I have, replied Itachi. Well then why don't I tell you, it's the Kekkei Genkai of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto managed to activate his. Amongst its abilities it is capable of enhancing both the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Another thing the scrolls seem to be missing is that the Sharingan has a third stage and it can only be unlocked by the Fuengan. It's called Kajigan, but I haven't got it just yet. However, my Mangekyo Sharingan is more than enough to match yours, said Sasuke. Meanwhile, I think it's time I gave some of the Sharingan's more advanced techniques a shot, thought Naruto. Hey ugly, called out Naruto. What did you just call me? Said Kisame, turning around. Naruto had prepared his version of Tsukuyomi. Kakam. As Kisame turned round, Naruto looked straight into his eyes. To Kisame the world went dark for a moment, and then a different world seemed to form around him. It was hot and dry, and whilst there was just enough light to see by, he couldn't tell where it was coming from. The sky was completely black. What the hell did you do? Seethed Kisame to the Naruto that materialized from the ground up in front of him. Well, since you work with Itachi and I already know he has Mangekyo Sharingan, I take it you're familiar at least in some way with its Tsukuyomi technique. Inquired Naruto. Of course, not that I've ever been daft enough to get on the receiving end of it, replied Kisame. Well, this is an even more powerful version of that, it's called Kakam, stated Naruto. Yeah right, and how would you be able to use a Sharingan technique? Said Kisame, preparing to dispel what he thought was simple genjutsu. I told you it's not a Sharingan technique as such but a more powerful technique. After all, that's what you'd expect from the Kekkei Genkai the Sharingan came from, the Fuengan, said Naruto calmly. No way, you mean I'm trapped in a technique even more devastating than the Mangekyo Tsukuyomi, cried Kisame. Yes, shouted Naruto. At that moment a 10-foot-long spear impaled Kisame through his left shoulder, running straight down, out of his foot and into the floor, with only 2.5 feet still showing out of the 6 inches 6 feet person. Then a second appeared on his right side and the process was repeated. Again and again the spears were withdrawn and plunged into him. Outside the genjutsus, Hinata had stopped her practice and walked to the door. She was about to wave her hand in front of Naruto's face to see if he was okay when Jiraiya called out. Don't, he's taken Kisame into a powerful dojutsu that requires eye contact. Sasuke and Itachi are in one as well. The two are either the same one or very close, he said. Oh. Okay, said Hinata timidly, looking over at Sasuke and Itachi. How on earth could it be taking so long though? Naruto must be give Kisame quite a hard time for it to take this long. But as far as I know from my talks with Naruto and Sasuke's fathers, the only reason that I know of for Itachi and Sasuke to take so long is if Sasuke has the Mangekyo Sharingan as well and used it. It prevents the full effects of Tsukuyomi and increases the time it takes, thought Jiraiya, shuddering at the thought of being in the world created by Kakame. He had been a victim of it once before thanks to Naruto's father. He almost felt sorry for Kisame being in that world. At the same time in both dojutsus. Time we left, said Naruto and Sasuke, again showing the level their teamwork had achieved. Instantly all four were back in reality. Kisame collapsed to one knee and then quickly jumped over to beside Itachi, who was still next to Sasuke, both of which had doubled over in exhaustion. Kisame were going, said Itachi, quickly running at a wall and using a flying kick to knock straight through it, Kisame following close behind. Naruto, how can you use a technique more powerful than Tsukuyomi and not suffer from chakra depletion? Asked Sasuke, kneeling on one knee and breathing heavily. Believe me, I've used up more chakra than you have, but another part of my family's beeline, though it's not really considered a Kekkei Genkai, cause you can't see it, is that we have very high chakra reserves. Mine is higher than most Chunin and even some Jonin, and it's even higher if I tap into the demons, said Naruto, his trademark smile plastered across his face. Sasuke smiled back. Well, I guess you didn't really need me then, said Sasuke. Like I'd take out Itachi, he's your brother and your problem, replied Naruto, still smiling. He walked over to Sasuke and bent down to help him up. Jiraiya followed him over and stood in front of them. I have to say I'm very impressed with both of you. It took a lot of skill to be able to go up against those two and force them to retreat. I'm not sure it would have been the same if I hadn't been here, but regardless, it's very impressive. I have a feeling that you two are going to be some of the strongest ninjas ever, said the Sannin. Just then someone came flying in. Dynamic entry, shouted Guy. His foot was quickly deflected into a wall by Naruto. Guy-sensei, I suggest having a better look at who you're going to attack before attacking, said Naruto. Sorry about that, all I could see using my forehead protector was two people next to a third who looked pretty beat up, so I assumed the worst. I left my mirror at home, he replied, pulling his foot out of the wall. He normally carries a mirror, thought Jiraiya. Hey kid, whatever you do, don't wear one of those green spandex things, said the voice. Why not? Asked Naruto. If you thought people didn't take you seriously before, then imagine how they'll treat you if you wore that. Oh, and on the subject of dress sense, I think it would be a good idea to get some new clothes. I know you like these jumpsuits, but the only things that shout, look, I'm here, KME, more fluorescent, said the voice. I suppose you're right. I guess we'll go look after this has been sorted out. Might as well take Hinata too, thought Naruto. Right then Guy, I trust we can leave it to you to make sure that Sasuke gets back to Konoha safely, said Jiraiya. Sure thing, we'll leave right away, said Guy, using his nice guy pose. Well, since that's sorted, I think me and Hinata will go shopping, said Naruto, walking over to the hole made by Itachi and jumping out of it. Alright, see coming, said Hinata, running after him and following him out the hole. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.